Hi everyone, welcome to the Mayor's Table. Great episode today here at Fire Station number 4 with the Farmington Fire Department. We're going to be talking about September is National Preparedness Month, and preparedness means an action on your part to go out to make sure that you're getting the education, you're putting the tools together to make sure in any situation, emergency, medical, or otherwise, your family is prepared, your job place is prepared, and you're able to take care of business when you need to. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, Farmington Mayor Nate Duckett here live, like on duty right now with the Farmington Fire Department. We're at Station 4 on the south side of Farmington. We've got a great episode for you today. We're going to be talking about national preparedness. September is National Preparedness Month, so we've gathered some of Farmington's finest, and we're here to make sure that our community is aware of what exactly it means to be prepared. So with me today, we have Captain Travis Vanderwarden.
That's great.
Fair enough?
Yes, sir.
All right, Travis, thank you so much for being here with us.
Oh, thanks for having us.
We have Engineer Eric Ivy. Eric, long time no see.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, great for you to be here. And our Honorable Fire Marshal, Brandy Vega. Yeah, lots to talk about
Good
today.
to be here.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's great to be here. Just so everybody's aware, we are on duty. So there is a potential that a fire alarm may go off and we may have to leave this. And so it could be a short episode, it could be a long episode. Either way, it's going to be a good episode. So, well, wonderful. Thank you guys for being here. We're going to be talking about first aid today. Things that people need to have in their homes and their businesses to make sure that when the unexpected happens, you know, they're prepared to help take care of an emergency situation. So we've got a whole table of items here that I can't wait to dig into and to certainly be, you know, a willing victim of some accident that needs some assistance. So, but first I want just people to get to know you all a little bit more. Travis, tell us how long you've been here with the fire department.
I've actually been with the fire department for 16 years this month, actually.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Thank you so much for your service.
I love it. It's been the best job in the world for me, for sure.
I hear that. I hear that from firefighters, and I'm encouraging my son to consider that as a career because it's a very noble
job.
career.
It's a great
So,
job.
16 years. That's a lot of witnessing many different circumstances where all of this will come into play today, I'm sure.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. Eric, how long you been here?
Still 9 years. This year will be 9 years. Being on Farmington Fire for.
And as an engineer, you get to drive the truck.
I got to drive the truck.
Yeah, that's fun.
It's pretty much the best job. Of the best job, this is the best job.
Awesome. And Brandy, how long have you been fire marshal?
Just over 10 years.
And prior to that?
I was an administrative captain in Colorado.
All right. Well, 10 years as fire marshal. Well, you're pretty popular. Businesses have to have the fire marshal come to their business. And we know that fire code is a very stringent thing for very good reasons. And one of those reasons is to make sure that people who are in those businesses are protected to the degree that they can be, and appropriate safety devices are in place. So I know because I get to see every month, and so people know they can actually access this same information. But the city manager's report every month gives us a full page on firefighter activity, fire department activity for the month. And so looking at the calls of service and everything that you all deal with, putting out fires is actually a small portion of what the fire department does. So much of what you do is emergency response. EMS is ran through San Juan Regional Medical Center in the county, but the fire department, if there's a medical emergency, you guys are on scene. So this will be great for people to see, and I think a lot of common sense information will be shared, and people need to have these particular items in the house. So I'm excited to learn about that. When it comes to a call for service and your all's response, I mean, these items are things you carry in the trucks, right? I mean, these are typical things that you're using on a regular basis, but most people aren't. And so understanding how to use it or what situations, when to use it, I think is really important. So let's kind of jump into it. Talk about the time involved between somebody having a medical emergency and then needing to have assistance. That time is obviously very important, depending, of course, on what they're going through.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's important to understand that you're right that San Juan Regional operates the ambulance service, but every medical call that goes out that comes through 911, a fire truck goes with them. So we help. Every one of our firefighters are trained as EMT basics. Just this year, we've work to add advanced EMTs to some of the firefighters, and so that gives us the ability to provide a higher level of care. We have some additional drugs and medications that we can use to help. So oftentimes the fire truck will arrive before the ambulance. So every time an ambulance goes on a call, a fire truck's going with them. So that's important to know. So it's when somebody calls 911, the dispatcher will kind of prioritize that call, and based off of where that call is and what the call is, we have stations spread throughout the city. They're kind of strategically placed, and so based off that call, they'll dispatch the unit that's closest or the most appropriate unit. And once we're dispatched, we could be 3 to 5 minutes before we could get there. And so there's kind of a critical window in some situations where that 3 to 5 minute window can be the difference between life and death. And so that's a little bit what we want to talk about, are some of the things that people can do in that critical window to either help themselves, help their family, or help the public around them.
Sure. Well, I know in my own house, I've had a few incidences where I like to cook, and I've chopped off parts of my finger. It's amazing how it grows back. That it hasn't needed to have you guys show up, and I'm able to get to urgent care, but I know there was a situation that occurred here not too long ago with one of our firefighters who needed some immediate medical attention, and maybe you can take us through that story.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of our firefighters off duty was playing volleyball with some friends, and kind of in a freak accident got a severe laceration to his leg. And it really was a severe laceration and a serious injury. And he, based off that injury on his leg, couldn't do a lot for himself. But he was with people who knew what to do. They had some first aid kits in their car, and they applied that direct pressure to stop the bleeding. And it was severe enough that the direct pressure wasn't enough, and they had to use a tourniquet. But he was fortunate enough to be with people who not only knew how to use that equipment, but had it with them. And so that was super critical. And in a situation where you think you're just playing volleyball, that's not something that you're thinking about. But these kind of emergencies can kind of happen anywhere.
Well, especially when you think about all the recreational facilities that we have across the city, and and all the people who are participating in those kind of sports. It really could happen any time. Matter of fact, I'm almost surprised it doesn't happen every day. You think about a skate park, or you got river activities or lake activities. So it's again, this is why we're here talking about it today, is what exactly should people know when those situations occur. In this situation with our firefighter, having others around who didn't have that knowledge is critical, but making sure also that the facilities that they're in, if they're participating in those kind of activities, that they also have these kind of tools and the training available, so that staff on hand also knows how to do it.
For sure. And I think it's important, like you mentioned that these things, you're surprised these things don't happen more often, and surprising enough they do. Like we're on track this year to run nearly 18,000 calls for the year, which is a lot. And of course those aren't all medical calls, but it's kind of spread throughout. But it does happen, unfortunately, more often than we like to think about, which definitely reiterates the reason for being prepared.
18,000 calls in a year.
18,000 calls. It'll be a record year.
It will be a record year. Wow. Well, and I think knowing what I know about all the construction that's happening here across the city, that's a lot of individuals in workplaces where things happen. And it's not just a matter of being prepared this way, it's also the workers being prepared each day at work and going through the process of making sure that they're being safe in that. But that's why you guys do what you do.
Absolutely. In
those situations. So, well, is there anything you want to kind of point out here in regards to the situation out with the firefighter, or give us some examples?
Well, since we're talking about bleeding, there's a program that's kind of a public education program that's been going on for a while called Stop the Bleed, and it's a program that's becoming very similar to a CPR program that is becoming popular enough that it is being activated throughout the country and in a lot of activities, where it's an education program that's teaching normal people how to recognize and control life-threatening bleeds. On top of that, then it's also giving them kits similar to something about this size that has those life control or those bleeding control tools in it. And this is getting very popular. When you start going into stores, we're starting to find stop the bleed kits, near the entrance and the exits, near the AEDs, near the fire extinguishers. Farmington High School has a stop the bleed kit in every single classroom, and the teachers are trained. So it's definitely getting to be a really good program. And that's one of the programs that I think we'll talk about that we would encourage people to try and find and get in. And it's a relatively short class with a lot of really good information, and gives you the tools and the knowledge to be able to intervene in a life-threatening bleeding situation.
And be confident about it.
And be confident.
That's the thing, is when time is of the essence, having the confidence to know that, okay, I know what to do. I've had the training. Everybody step aside.
Absolutely.
Well, is there anything you want to show on that, on Stop the Bleed? You want to keep kind of rolling through?
Sure. I mean, just really quick. I mean, obviously, we're just going to touch on some very basics today, but just a real quick. I mean, if you come across a bleeding or a major bleed, the first step is to apply direct pressure. And that's just taking a bandage or a towel or a t-shirt or whatever you have and basically applying heavy pressure directly to the wound. And you want to keep that pressure applied. You don't want to take it off and check and see if the bleeding has stopped. You want to keep it on there. If blood soaks through that bandage, you want to just add another one on top of that. And that's the first step in controlling bleeding. And if it's so severe that you can't stop it with direct pressure, then that's when you would apply a tourniquet. Tourniquets. So there's lots of different versions, and you got to be a little careful with tourniquets because there's a lot of knockoffs out there. So you want to make sure that you have a good name brand, well-known tourniquet. And if you buy it from a respectable place, you're probably gonna get one. But I think it's there's a little bit difference from applying direct pressure with a tourniquet. I think we were gonna show how to apply a tourniquet.
Let's do it.
All right.
Where do you want to tourniquet me at?
Well, let's say you had a severe bleed in your forearm there.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
Now the difference. I'm sorry.
Nope. I lost it.
The difference between a tourniquet and direct pressure is we're not applying this tourniquet directly to the wound. We're going to apply this tourniquet above the wound. So if you were bleeding here in the forearm, we don't want to put this directly on the wound, and we'd want to be really careful. We don't want to put it on any joints. Okay. So we're gonna put it high. A lot of people talk about high and tight, but you just want to be a minimum of 2 to 3 inches above that wound.
And then why not on the joint?
Right on the joint. Well, there's a couple reasons. One, the purpose of the tourniquet is we're literally clamping down on the veins and the arteries to stop the bleeding. There's too many gaps and spaces in there, on top of the fact that we could do damage to the joints.
Okay.
So a tourniquet's pretty easy. It's just got a strap, a Velcro strap, and then this handle, what we call a windlass. You want to start by making this strap as tight as you can. And of course, we're not going to go full tight today with the mare, but you want to go tight. The first step is the most important step. You really want to get this as tight as possible. So you're really going to wrench this down, pull it tight, and then you're going to take the windlass and you're just going to start turning it until the bleeding stops. Once that, and this can be tough. You've really got to twist hard to make this, and this is going to be uncomfortable. But the alternative, it's better than the alternative.
Better than bleeding out.
Better than bleeding out. Once you get that pressure on the windlass, you're going to trap it in this section here, and then bring the strap over, and that just keeps that. If you didn't do that, this strap could be pulled off, and then you lose the whole thing, and then you
lock it in.
Just secure it in. Now there was not rumors, but the theory for a long time in the good old days, that if you put a tourniquet on, it was guaranteed you were going to lose a limb. And that's been disproven. That's not the case at all. You definitely can put a tourniquet on. It can stay on for several hours without causing any long-term damage. You don't want to put a tourniquet on if you don't need it, but if you need it, don't hesitate to put a tourniquet on.
And you can buy these at stores all across town.
Absolutely. Well, there's a few stores. Probably one of the best one here in town is Safety LLC.
Okay.
They carry all of the medical supplies, and again, as we talk about first aid kits, they can set you up with a small, big. They've got custom-made ones, or they've got standard kits. They've got custom-made kits. They can do whatever you want for you. And on top of that, they do the training. They do stop the bleed training there. They do CPR training there. So that's a really great resource. Of course, there's lots of options online, but again, just make sure that you're looking somewhere that's a respectable place, because this is by far the most popular tourniquet, and it is copied quite often, and it's not always quality. This windlass piece tends to break on the low knockoffs.
Okay.
And if that breaks, then the tourniquet is pretty much
No good.
worthless. Yep.
Wow, interesting. You know, I just think about the number of oil field service companies we have, and I wonder how frequently they're going through training with their groups who are out in the field. And do we offer any of that as a municipality, or is that something that's done through a private company?
I think all that's through a private company.
Private,
Okay,
yeah.
so Safety LLC, I believe, also does some training as well.
Correct.
So we're giving shout outs to Safety LLC because we know they're out there doing the work for us. But if people want to, so I guess for me, if you're a company owner, if you're a supervisor and you're wanting to make sure that your people understand these things, make sure you're doing your due diligence, reaching out to the company and asking for that proper safety training, which they can incorporate into their monthly training program. So that's good information. You'd mentioned something a minute ago about AEDs. People may not know what an AED is. Travis, what is that?
Sure. So when we were kind of coming up with things to talk about for you, one of our biggest ones was stop the bleed and bleeding control. We also talked about CPR and AED use, choking, burn injuries, and any kind of like allergic reactions. CPR is one of the skills that could truly save a life. If you do witness somebody that does collapse and they stop breathing, what you want to do is you want to confirm that they're not breathing, and then you want to try to take their pulse, no longer than 10 seconds. If they don't have a pulse, you want to immediately start chest compressions right in the center of their chest. And then you want to try to yell for somebody to call 911. Can't forget that. We still need to come and try to yell out for an AED. Sometimes people are a little intimidated with these AEDs, but they're actually very user-friendly and they're pretty readily acceptable.
What is an AED?
So an AED is an automated external device. Defibrillator, what it does is it actually shocks your heart or stops your heart out of a rhythm that is keeping your heart from getting the blood to the other parts of your body. So it's actually trying to give that quick reset to your heart, and then hopefully your heart just kind of starts up on their normal sinus rhythm. There's a couple rhythms that these can actually shock and put you back into a regular rhythm that you want to be in.
It's kind of like the old movies with the paddles and it was
Yeah.
the clear shock. Yeah.
Right.
This has been definitely modified to make it very user friendly and very safe.
For sure. And if you start looking for them, you'll start to find them everywhere. Most commercial establishments have them. They're usually located at the front of the store. Most city buildings actually have them in there. They're pretty readily available with signs. They're usually like in like kind of a glass box, or they're just hanging on the side of a wall. Once you take it out, this is actually ours, obviously, so this is a little bit more advanced, but it kind of goes through the same prompts. What you would do is you would turn it on, and it kind of talks you through what you need to do. So it'll tell you to plug in the cables. So these are going to be the cables that are with them. A lot of these are actually going to have the cables already plugged in. So once you plug these in, it's going to tell you adult pads. And if you can look here, it actually has the placement exactly where
pads to patient's bare chest.
you need to put these pads onto the patient. So it's pretty, if you look at it and if you open this package, there's going to be more stickers in there for correct placement of the pads. And once you place that, as soon as it has a good seal, it's going to say analyzing rhythm, and it'll tell you continue CPR, or it'll say shock the patient.
Oh, wow.
And the shock the patient is a very big, either orange or red button. It's going to be pretty easily to find and see.
And nobody needs to be touching the patient when that happens.
Nobody should be touching the patient when you shock the patient, for sure. San Juan Regional Medical Center actually has a map of a lot of the AEDs
I was gonna mention that
are around the city. And if you are a business owner in the city, you can actually register your own AED on there, and then it'll come up on that map. And we actually looked it up this morning, and there's quite a few throughout the city. So there should be no reason that somebody could get one of these quickly, or maybe have it on somebody before we even arrive, which I think that critical time would be helpful.
And for the training, CPR training, again, that's done through a private company. We obviously don't want to show all that here because we don't have time, but liability too. We just, but it's important for people to seek this information out, and that's kind of what we're here today to encourage them to do. So anything else on CPR and AED?
I know we're probably going to get to this for other things, but American Red Cross has a great app, and a great website that you can kind of go to, and it actually shows you when they actually have training facilities and when they're doing trainings around. And some of them can even be free to the public, just kind of depending on the time.
All right. Well, the next one is something I think, I've been in a situation where I've been choking before. I had a family member who decided it would be fun to eat a piece of chicken without chewing it and swallowed it, and immediately I recognized that they were choking. And I know what I did, but what typically is the first response if you see somebody in that situation where they can't breathe or they're struggling?
Sure. Well, usually the universal tell is somebody going like this, right? And if they're telling you they're choking, they're probably not choking yet. That means they're still actually breathing if they can talk. But if they're actually not breathing, the first thing you want to do is you want to try to get up behind them, try to make a fist, and then just put it slightly above their navel and give some abdominal thrust until whatever's in their mouth has been expelled. If that doesn't work and they collapse to the ground and they don't have a pulse, then we're going to go back to the CPR skills.
Okay. Yeah, I immediately did move behind the person and
Nice.
managed to dislodge that giant piece of chicken, and fortunately they've never decided to eat chicken that way again.
And we've actually run quite a few calls where we get called to somebody choking, and there was a bystander that was on scene that actually performed that. And so by the time we got there, yes, they do need to go get checked to make sure their airway hasn't been damaged, but at least whatever was in there was expelled already before we got there.
From the fire marshal's standpoint, Brandy, is there any type of requirement for businesses to have any of this kind of training? If I was a restaurant owner, I'd love to make sure that my staff has it. I don't know if there's a requirement or not, so.
So their requirements are based more around their equipment.
Okay.
So if you're going to have an AED, your employees should have some sort of training for it.
Sure.
And it's great that we have these all over the city. It's kind of a public responsibility to know how to use them. So it's important, that even your everyday person learns how to do CPR and knows how to use an AED because they are available. Anyone can do CPR, but we do have AEDs so many places now. It's important that people reach out to get that education.
Well, and I know that the timing when it comes to a heart attack, the longer minutes it takes for that to happen, it definitely decreases, the possibility that person's going to survive it. Is there any other? So having this training is, to me, would be pretty critical. As a matter of fact, I probably need to have this training.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad I'm here today.
Well, and that early defibrillation is what saves lives when it comes to cardiac arrest. So, CPR kind of can maintain and give you some time, but really what we need is that defibrillation. So that's why it's so important. That's why they've become very popular. That's why they've made them very easy and very safe. And again, it's not like you can put that on somebody and accidentally shock somebody who doesn't need a shock. It'll tell you. It'll do all the thinking for you.
Right.
That's actually, I didn't realize that they had that capability, so that's fantastic. All right, we talked a little bit about bleeding control, so we don't need to go back into that. Burns and wounds. That's another big one.
Sure.
Like I told you before this, I had always pictured myself being in much more situations where I was going to be on fire and stop, dropping, and roll. But if something does happen in a house or a business and somebody manages to get burned, how do we deal with that?
Sure. Yeah, burns, the important thing on burns is to stop the burn. So whether it's hot water or from a flame or something like that, you want to stop that burn. And one of the best ways is you're running that under cool water. You don't want to be super cold. You don't want to put direct ice on it, but running under cool water for 10 to 15 minutes is probably the best method to do that. And most burns typically can be handled at home. Avoid things like home remedies like butter, or a lot of people put some putting
people
some sort
still
of
talk
greasy,
that way.
Yeah, I don't know if they do, but we want to avoid those things. There are some commercially made like burn creams and gels. Those things are okay, but if it blisters or creates an open wound, that's probably something that needs to be addressed with your doctor. And if you ever and if it gets bad enough where you have burns around your face that affect the airway at all, or large burn, like a significant portion of the body, that's an emergency. That's a 911 call, and you need to go to the hospital right away. So minor burns, cool, like a nice clean dressing to wrap them up and dress them afterwards. And but if it's severe enough, that is a life-threatening emergency.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Cool water.
Cool water.
Cool water. All right. Allergic reactions.
Allergic reaction could be a very big emergency. especially if it's an anaphylactic emergency, which that could be the swelling kind of the airway. So signs of that would be like hives, swelling of the face, mouth, tongue. Our biggest worry is going to be that airway. Farmington Fire does carry epinephrine, so when we arrive there, if you don't have an EpiPen already, we can administer that and we can kind of start the process to try to get that swelling down. If it is somebody with a known allergen to bees or some kind of a food allergy, they might have an EpiPen with them, and more than likely they'll know how to use it. But if they can't, it is actually pretty user friendly. It kind of shows the directions on there. There's an orange tip and a blue tip on it. Both of them have to be removed. The orange one is the needle side, and the blue top is the actual safety. What they say is orange to the thigh and blue to the sky, like blue sky. So what you want to do is you want to administer that, and you want to stick it into the middle of your the thigh and hold it there for about 20 seconds.
Okay.
Well, and of course, I want to reiterate, we do need to call 911. Even if they have an EpiPen, we still need to have the emergency services coming.
Well, so many kids that I've known, my daughter included, she's allergic to peanuts, and I've known kids who, even just peanuts being in the room, they can start having allergic reactions to it. But making sure as parents, if we recognize that threat, potentially exists for our kids having an EpiPen, but just keeping that in mind, if we're having that in our house and we're putting together a medical kit in general for our family, learning those skills, but also having the tools is really, really important. So, how do we manage kits in our house? What's enough? What's not enough? What's too much? Is there too much? I happen to think probably that's not the case. You probably couldn't have too much.
Sure. I think it depends a little bit on your skill, what you're comfortable at, and what you need. And so you can see on the table, we have various kits here. Everything from a very small, you can carry with you anywhere, to a large kit that's backpack full. And it just depends a lot on, like I said, your ability, your skills, and what you need. So if you, the basics, you gloves, bandages, maybe some splinting material. These medical scissors are always great to have. And again, those are all things that kind of come in standard kits. And then you can customize it for your family. So if you have any medical conditions that you know about, like the allergies or diabetes or anything along those lines, you might want to add those medications to your kit so you can have them in emergency. And like I said, there's kits that you can custom build. There's kits that come pre-made, and you literally, it depends on what you want and what you want to carry. As you can see, I carry this in my truck. My daughter was hiking last week. I threw that in her backpack so she had something. That big giant backpack is what I carry in my truck almost all the time, but there's a lot of extra stuff in there that my extra training helps me use. And so it just kind of depends on exactly what you need. And when you take those classes and you get that education, you'll learn more about what you want to put in your kit and what is helpful.
Well, and I can tell you as a baseball and a football coach, I made sure that I always had a kit with me whenever we were at practice or at games. And I'm actually surprised that we're not required as coaches to have an AED with us, because even at practice, where those circumstances can arise, but having that opportunity to save a life, just something for people to think about. Talking about camping, I always made sure that we've got something with us when we go camping. I make sure my son takes that stuff with him when he goes camping, even going fishing. Really, you should just keep one in your car. You should have one in your house and take it with you wherever you may need it.
Absolutely.
Great. Brandy Vega.
Yes.
Tell us what we need to know about Preparedness Month.
So the whole point behind Preparedness Month is to help people learn what needs to be done ahead of major disasters.
Okay.
We have different disasters here than, other places. A little bit, you hear hurricanes, tornadoes, all that stuff. Ours are on a different scale. We obviously, with the river, have the potential for flooding. We have the potential for wildfire. Sure. And there's always the unknown. So the biggest piece is just know how to prepare. And I think the starting point for that is know how to get your alerts and be prepared to get those alerts. Our dispatch center has, sign-ups like the Active 911, that kind of stuff. FEMA has stuff. Ready.gov has them. IPAWS, which is FEMA's basically the alert system. So if you had, as a child, you had quicksand, so
Yeah.
you know all about the testing of the TV screen.
Sure.
So it's similar to that. So there's that actually is a mechanism you can use for notifications, and then FEMA has a different one for that. Locally, we have, like I said, Smart 911 and Everbridge.
Let's talk about that, because I don't know. I mean, I hope most people know about that, but essentially you can sign up online and put how many family members are in your house, if anybody's got a disability. So that way when fire's called out there, they've got a general
Right.
sense of who may be in there. And if there is a large house fire, you know, you want to make sure that everybody's accounted for. But
Right.
they can do that through the system that's, where can you access that system?
Just online. I mean, if
But is it
you,
on our website? That's what I'm wondering. Is it on the City of
it's
Farmington's
on
website?
San Juan Communication Centers for sure.
Okay.
But, you know, the Smart 911 is basically more of a notification system. Everbridge kind of has the back and forth with the information about your family and that kind of stuff.
Well, we had questions come up after the floods in Rio Doso and Central Texas. I had a conversation with a constituent who said, if there's a big flood here in Farmington, how would we be notified? And it typically would come through your cell phone. So is there anything anybody has to do on their cell phones to make sure that they get those, or those go through the cell towers and then they're immediately sent to everybody?
So the system that's like that is kind of like the same way you get your Amber alerts.
Okay.
So you just, you know, have to be tied into your cell phone, or you know what I'm saying.
Sure.
And they're done by region. So similar to Smart 911, it's done by region. It doesn't just give a mass notification. It does, you know, if we have an incident in this area of the city, it's going to notify this region.
Okay.
And it's the same thing for like Amber Alerts, that kind of stuff. So that's basically the system they use for those kind of notifications.
Well, wildfire's been a pretty heavy topic. A lot of it dealing with more wooded areas than necessarily here, but we are now considered a wildfire area.
Yes.
For insurance reasons, I can tell you that, because you know, trying to place insurance now, when your wildfire score goes up, even though we don't have the big trees, but we can get those quick burning brush fires, and when it's this dry, everything turns into tinder.
Right.
So one of the things I actually had, I had a firefighter come out and help me scope out my property to create a safe zone around my property that would allow a fire truck access back there in case there was something on the back side of my house. Is that a service that we offer to the community?
We don't offer that specifically. FEMA offers what they call FireWise.
Okay.
And it basically step by step tells you what should be up against your house, virtually nothing.
Yes.
What should be 5 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet. And it lays that out, what type of vegetation you can have close to your house, what shouldn't be anywhere close to your house, how far away your larger trees should be. And that is, I mean, literally with pictures, it's all laid out for you.
Okay.
And they have an entire program based on specifically that, the defensible space.
Defensible space, that was the term. Well, it's becoming a bigger issue. So people, I think, as homeowners and business owners, they need to be aware. It also makes a big difference on whether or not you can obtain insurance.
Right.
So doing your part, I think, to be prepared and take care of your property up front is going to be really important. Yeah, we don't, there aren't hurricanes, there aren't tornadoes. Wildfire, yes. Floods, yes. What else? Is there any other big ones?
We get significant lightning and rainstorms,
Yeah.
which do cause flooding, just even in the like ravines and arroyo areas of the city. Not necessarily the river flooding, but there's, like I said, numerous areas in the city that do flood pretty regularly.
Oh, yes. Yes, I've dealt with that a couple times up north. So, well, Brandon, anything else you want to share about National Preparedness Month? Is there, you talked about FEMA, FireWise, and then I think even, talking with Mike Mestis with San Juan County Office of Emergency Management, just understanding when those alerts go out and that they are regional is very helpful for people to understand. But it's all going through your phones now. And
Right.
I encourage folks that if you see something going on, make sure you say something. If you're wondering what's happening, if there's electrical outages, Those things worry folks. Being prepared for an electrical outage is another, being prepared kind of
Right.
component of it. But make sure Facebook is typically updated pretty quickly when it comes to emergency stuff. The electric utility is obviously updating all the time if there's outages.
Right.
But people should take the time, if you see something, make sure you call it in so that others can be made aware of it also.
For sure. I think the greatest resource probably for Preparedness Month is ready.gov.
Okay.
And they basically lay everything out for you, like what your options are for notification, the next steps, which would be making a plan. Have a plan for your family, plan where you're going to go. If you don't have relatives or family or friends in the area, you need to have a place where you can go. Whether that be, if it's an incident large enough to establish a mass shelter, just be ready. And your family needs to know, here's the plan, here's where you're going to go, and here's how we're going to communicate with each other. Always knowing that, we lose cell service sometimes, especially in that kind of situation.
Sure.
So just having that plan and knowing where you're going to get everybody together for accountability. And that way so if somebody doesn't show up, then we need to mobilize resources to see if we can't figure out where those folks are at. Next step being prepare your kit, which is food, water, medications. That's a very big one I think people often forget. Anything you might need, I think of it as anything you might need camping
Sure.
needs to go with you.
You have a go pack.
So it is, exactly. And that's basically, the ready.gov site basically spells that out for you, like what everything you should have in there, just as far as being able to take care of yourself without assistance, without electricity, any of those things. So if you are relying on your cell phone, you need to make sure there's charged battery packs in that kit, flashlights, just a number of things like antiseptic wipes or, that kind of stuff. Tools that you might need. Just food, I think, is probably the biggest one. It's the most difficult
Sure.
because you either, buy prepared resources, which are everywhere now. That's an easy one, but not very cheap. Or you can do canned goods and dried goods and different stuff like that. But if you do that, you have to keep up with the expiration dates. You can't eat 10-year-old corn.
Well, I have a pack of spaghetti that's supposed to be good for 30 years, and it's
There you go.
dry frozen spaghetti.
Yep.
I keep waiting just to break it out. I'm like, it's been there 10 years now. We
Just
should
to
just
see.
try it and see what it's like. But no, that's all good things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just having I think what I did is I took a big Rubbermaid in my garage and just put most of what I see listed here, which is
Mm-hmm. Right.
typically what I would take camping. I mean, that's kind of how I look at it in a way.
Right.
And just have it in this thing. And so if we got to go, I've got at least that part of it ready
Right.
to go out there.
It's important to have like your basic first aid kit in there. So if you get separated from your vehicle or where you normally have those supplies, it's important to have that just in there so that can go with you and you're not trying to search out other stuff.
Sure. Well, good information. I'm going to circle back on something here because I think it's a question that kind of goes back to the AED. And if I chose to use an AED and I used it wrong, even though it's obviously very user friendly, or I performed some sort of medical emergency on somebody to try and help them. If I hurt them more, am I going to be held liable for that situation?
No. So there is it's called the Good Samaritan Law, and it was a law that was put in place for, Samaritans who are stopping to help in good faith, that they won't be held liable. But of course, you have to not be grossly negligent.
Sure.
Or try and perform something that you're not trained to do. If you're trained to do CPR, that's great, but probably shouldn't try and do surgery on the side of the road.
Yeah. We got to amputate.
That's
We got to
right.
amputate. Whoa, what?
So absolutely, there's things in place so that people can help each other and not, and unfortunately, there's sometimes situations that just don't go your way. And so, yeah, that's in place so that you're not held liable for trying to help. So absolutely.
Very interesting. I think the only thing I've delivered a baby. Maybe I could do that. I can do it. Step aside. I don't want to be that guy. No. Any other final messages that you all might have just to share with the community?
I think Sometimes when you talk about emergency preparedness, it gets a little overwhelming, and it just seems like there's so much to do. But unfortunately, if some sort of emergency happens, your skills and the tools that you need aren't going to magically appear. So you do need to prepare, and even if it's just something small, and just start, just a small micro step in the right direction is better than where you were.
Sure.
So yeah, I think the biggest thing with all of it is just a little bit of education, a little bit of preparation, and some little bit of thought behind it, and you're better off than where you were.
I agree.
For sure.
Travis?
Yeah, just piggyback off Eric. I mean, I think just a bystander with a little bit of knowledge and a few basic skills could truly save a life, or a life of your loved one. So,
For sure.
Brandy?
I would say rely heavily on places, websites like FEMA, but especially ready.gov, because they basically just lay out your plan for you. And it even talks in there, when you're trying to build your go bag or your kit, if you need to buy one thing each time you go to the store to put it in there, that's better than nothing at all.
Sure.
So that, like I said, it lays it out for you. It's step by step by step. It starts with the notification piece and tries to, give you some options and places to look to get yourself set up for those notifications. But they make it completely step by step.
Sure. Well, for anybody using AI, I mean, you can go on to AI right now and type in, what do I need to have in my preparedness kit? And you can even put in there how many family members you got. I've got kids with allergies. I mean, that thing it obviously it'll pull all that information off of FEMA, but it really is simple to find.
For sure.
But then it's the action of actually going out and gathering that stuff and putting it in the places that you're going to need it in case those emergencies happen. And then for your homes, so I can tell you from my experience in September 2013 when we had those 2 big heavy rains, my house flooded. So now I have 6 pumps that are at my house all the time, and I'm prepared to get rid of that water when it comes in. I don't have to worry about that as much anymore. But just recognizing that, I've had clients of mine in the insurance industry who've really went above and beyond to ensure that their home was prepared for any type of disaster. But them taking the forethought to go ahead and do that just, they're being responsible homeowners. Businesses need to be doing the same thing. And when it comes to the training that's involved here, again, I just reflect on the number of businesses who have, who have employees who are out in the field all the time, or they're out doing these big jobs. And so I really would encourage them to make sure they're taking the steps necessary to get the training, make sure that every vehicle they have out there is equipped with the proper medical equipment in case there is an emergency. But knowing how to use it being key, it's a worthwhile investment, because if you saved one life in that situation, that investment is totally worth it. I mean, totally worth it. So, well, I certainly appreciate you all taking the time on duty to come on the mayor's table and kind of share what we're looking at here for National Preparedness Month. Any final thoughts before we close this out? I just want to make sure we don't miss anything.
I think so.
Join the Farmington Fire Department. There, let me plug that.
We're
hiring now.
Can we plug the stair climb?
Oh, yeah, the stair climb's coming up.
Stair climb's
Yeah,
coming
let's
up.
talk about that.
Yeah, so the stair climb, the 9/11 Memorial to 9/11 stair climb, gives us an opportunity. We do it every year. This will be our 8th year doing it, to remember and honor those that died and the first responders that sacrificed on 9/11. And our event is a great event. All the proceeds we raise money for is for the National Fallen Firefighter Foundation, and they do amazing things, and just on a whole gamut that helps not only those that have died in line of duty and their families, but even prevention and a lot of stuff before that. And even more important, this year we've partnered with the NFFF. We're starting our own foundation here, and they're going to share those funds with us, so we'll be able to keep some of that money here local for our first responders local. And not only that, but it's a great event, because I know we all remember exactly where we were and how we were
absolutely.
feeling. But we're getting now, 24 years later, we have firefighters on our department that weren't even alive when that happened. So I think it's important to pass that honor and that memory down to them and help them remember. And so our stair climb is cool. You sign up, you get a T-shirt, you come out and climb the equivalent of 110 flights of stairs at Ricketts Park, which is what the height of the Twin Towers are. If the stairs are too much, we can walk around the infield at Ricketts Park. We typically try and walk 3 miles, which is the distance from the tunnels where several fire units were trapped because of traffic. And so the firefighters got out and ran to ground zero in their gear. So that's you do the climb or do the walk in honor of them. And so, and it's a great cause, and it's fun, and it's a great event.
Where can people sign up for that at?
Yeah, the best place to sign up is at 4cornerstairclimb.com, but that's the number 4, cornerstairclimb.com.
Okay. Yeah, it is a great event, and I'll tell you, when you're out there and you see firefighters in full gear walking those bleachers, I mean, you just get a sense, especially when the sun's out and it's hot, and I think this year we're doing it in the afternoon.
We're going to do it in the evening. It starts at 6 o'clock.
Okay, so a little bit different. And we'll have probably have the lights on out there,
Yep.
but no, it's a great event and it's for a good cause. And I do remember where I was. Very emotional day for all Americans, but we certainly appreciate forever the sacrifices that happened on that day, and we appreciate the service that you all perform. And I know your number one priority is trying to keep people safe and make sure that when they're in terrible situations that you're helping them. And so it's an honorable profession, and I thank you all very much for doing it. So sign up for the stair climb, support the firefighters, and then encourage your kids or whomever, join the Farmington Fire Department.
That's right.
Best
job ever.
Best job ever.
It is.
I hear it. I saw the recliners in there. I thought that looked really comfortable. Hey, just kidding. No. We appreciate you tuning in here today. We hope we found this educational. We hope maybe it's spurred you to some action in educating yourself, your family, your workplace, preparing you for those things we certainly don't think will ever happen. They will happen. And if you're prepared for them, you're going to be able to manage that appropriately, and I think those people around you will certainly appreciate it. So again, thank you to my guests here today, and we will see you here next time on the Mayor's Table.